My name is Sarah, and I'm 28 years old. Last month, I discovered something that shattered every belief I had about family loyalty. What started as a simple conversation about my sister Emma's upcoming wedding turned into the most devastating betrayal I could imagine. My own parents, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, had been plotting behind my back for months. Their demands weren't just about appearance, they were about erasing me from the most important day of my sister's life. The aftermath would destroy our family forever. Before I dive into this story that changed everything, I'd love to know where you're watching from. If this resonates with you or you've dealt with toxic family dynamics, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about standing up for yourself. Trust me, you'll want to see how this family drama unfolds and how karma came back around in the most satisfying way possible. It was a Tuesday evening in March when my world came crashing down. I'd driven over to my childhood home for what I thought was a casual family dinner to discuss Emma's wedding plans. My sister had been engaged to her college boyfriend Marcus for 8 months, and the wedding was set for June. As the maid of honor, I'd been helping with everything from venue selection to dress fittings. Mom had made her famous pot roast, and we were sitting around the same oak dining table where I'd eaten countless meals growing up. Dad was scrolling through his phone, while Emma excitedly showed me photos of centerpieces she'd found on Pinterest. Everything felt normal, even warm, until Mom cleared her throat in that particular way that meant serious business was about to be discussed. "Sarah, honey, we need to talk about something important," Mom began, her voice taking on that saccharine tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news wrapped in fake sweetness. "It's about the wedding photos and how everything will look." I set down my fork, immediately sensing tension. Emma stopped mid-sentence about mason jar decorations, and even Dad looked up from his phone. The room felt charged with an uncomfortable energy that made my stomach clench. "Emma's photographer is really expensive," Mom continued, "and we want to make sure the photos turn out perfectly. You know how important this day is for our family." "Of course," I replied, genuinely confused about where this conversation was heading. "I've already picked out my maid of honor dress, and it photographs beautifully. The seamstress said the alterations would be ready next week." That's when Mom exchanged a look with Dad that I'd seen countless times growing up, the look that said they'd discussed something extensively without including me. Emma suddenly became very interested in her napkin, refusing to meet my eyes. "Well, that's actually what we wanted to discuss," Dad chimed in, setting his phone down completely. "We've been thinking about the overall aesthetic of the wedding party, and we feel like it would be best if you could lose some weight before June." The words hit me like a physical slap. I sat there stunned, trying to process what my own father had just said to me. "Excuse me," Mom jumped in quickly as if rehearsed. "It's not about you personally, sweetheart. You're beautiful just as you are. But wedding photos last forever, and we want Emma to look back on her special day and see perfection. You understand, don't you?" I looked around the table, searching for any sign that this was some kind of cruel joke. Emma was still avoiding eye contact, picking at her food like a child who knew she was complicit in something wrong. Dad had his arms crossed, waiting for my response as if he'd just asked me to pick up dry cleaning. "How much weight are we talking about here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. 40 pounds would be ideal," Mom said, matter-of-factly, as if she were discussing the weather. "I found this wonderful program online. It's only $3,000, but it guarantees results in 12 weeks. We'd be happy to pay for it as our gift to you and Emma." 40 pounds. In 12 weeks. My parents wanted me to lose 40 pounds so I wouldn't embarrass them in their younger daughter's wedding photos. The absurdity of it was almost laughable, except for the crushing weight of betrayal settling in my chest. "And if I don't?" I asked, though I was terrified to hear the answer. Another exchanged look between my parents. Emma finally looked up, her eyes filled with what might have been guilt, but she remained silent. "Well," Dad said slowly, "we think it might be best if you step down as maid of honor." Emma's college roommate Madison could step in. She's been such a good friend to Emma, and she fits the vision better. The vision. My own family had a vision for perfection that didn't include me as I naturally existed. 28 years of being their daughter, and I was being edited out of a family milestone because my body didn't meet their aesthetic standards. This is insane, I finally managed to say, my voice shaking with a mixture of hurt and rage. You want me to undergo some extreme diet program or be removed from my sister's wedding party? It's not about removing you, Mom said quickly. You'd still be at the wedding, of course. You'd just be a regular guest. No pressure, no spotlight. Wouldn't that be more comfortable for you anyway? The manipulation was stunning in its casual cruelty. They were presenting my humiliation as a kindness, as if being demoted from maid of honor to regular attendee would somehow be a relief rather than a devastating rejection. I turned to Emma desperately, hoping my sister would finally speak up, would tell our parents this was ridiculous and that she wanted me by her side regardless of my size. But Emma just sat there, twisting her engagement ring around her finger, saying absolutely nothing. That silence told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just my parents' idea. Emma had been part of these discussions. My own sister, whom I'd helped through breakups and finals, stress and job interviews, had agreed that I was too fat to stand beside her on the most important day of her life. I need to think about this, I said, standing up from the table on shaking legs. Of course, honey, Mom said brightly, as if we'd just discussed vacation plans. Take your time. But we'll need to know by Friday so we can finalize everything with Madison if needed. 5 days. They were giving me 5 days to decide whether to undergo a crash diet program or accept being pushed to the sidelines of my sister's wedding. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Please don't be mad. You know how Mom gets about these things. How Mom gets about these things. As if this was just another one of our mother's quirks, like her insistence on matching Christmas pajamas or her obsession with thank you notes. Not a devastating betrayal that revealed exactly how my family really saw me. Driving home that night, I realized that this wasn't really about wedding photos or aesthetic visions. This was about power control and conditional love. My family's acceptance came with terms and conditions, and I was being presented with a contract that required me to literally shrink myself to earn my place. That's when I started planning something they would never see coming. I spent the next 48 hours in a fog of hurt and disbelief, replaying the dinner conversation over and over in my mind. Wednesday passed in a blur of distracted work meetings and unanswered texts from Emma asking if I was okay with everything. Thursday morning, I called in sick and spent the day in my pajamas eating ice cream directly from the container while scrolling through forums of people sharing their own family horror stories. It was Thursday evening when clarity finally struck. I was reading a Reddit thread about wedding drama when I stumbled across a comment that changed everything. Stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Those 10 words crystallized something I'd been struggling to understand about my entire relationship with my family. For 28 years, I'd been the accommodating daughter. When Emma wanted my room because it was bigger, I moved to the smaller one without complaint. When my parents couldn't afford to send us both to summer camp, I insisted Emma should go because she was younger. When family photos were taken, I automatically moved to the back row. I'd spent my entire life making myself smaller, literally and figuratively, to make other people comfortable. But this wasn't about comfort anymore. This was about respect, dignity, and the fundamental right to exist in my own body without apology. Friday morning arrived with 3 missed calls from Mom and a text that read, "Sweetie, we need your decision today. The diet program has a waiting list." The casual urgency of it, the way she made their ultimatums sound like an exciting opportunity I might miss out on, finally ignited something fierce inside me. Instead of calling them back, I drove to Emma's apartment. She answered the door in her work clothes, clearly surprised to see me standing there at 11 in the morning. "Sarah, I was just about to text you. Have you thought about what Mom and Dad suggested?" Suggested. As if demanding I lose 40 pounds or be removed from the wedding party was merely a gentle suggestion. "I have," I said, stepping into her living room. "But first I want to hear it from you. Do you think I'm too fat to be your maid of honor?" Emma's face flushed red. She started that nervous laugh she'd done since childhood when caught in a lie. "It's not about that. You know it's not about that. Then what is it about Em? She sank onto her couch, finally meeting my eyes. Mom showed me the photos from cousin Lisa's wedding last year. You know, the ones where you're standing next to her bridesmaids and she said it would be better for everyone if the wedding party looked more cohesive. Cohesive. A clinical word for what they really meant: thin. My parents had been analyzing family photos, critiquing my body, and planning my demotion for months. So you agree with them? I don't know, Emma burst out, tears starting to form. Mom makes these points and Dad backs her up, and then Marcus says maybe they have a point about professional photos, and suddenly everyone's acting like this is normal and reasonable. There it was. The truth I'd been dreading. My sister hadn't fought for me. When our parents suggested I was too fat for her special day, she hadn't defended me or told them they were being cruel. She'd been swayed by their arguments and her fiancé's agreement. Emma, I said quietly, if your best friend Madison gained weight and looked different from how she looks now, would you ask her to lose 40 pounds or step down from being in your wedding? That's different. How? Because she's not family. Family is supposed to understand. The irony was breathtaking. Family was supposed to understand, which meant I was supposed to understand why I was being asked to change my body or accept humiliation. But somehow being family didn't mean they were supposed to understand why their request was devastating and cruel. I need you to listen to me very carefully, I said, standing up. What you and Mom and Dad are asking me to do is not normal. It's not reasonable. It's cruel. And the fact that you can't see that tells me everything I need to know about where I stand in this family. Don't be so dramatic, Emma said, her tears turning to irritation. It's just weight. People lose weight all the time. Why are you making this into such a big deal? Just wait. As if my body was as changeable as a haircut, as inconsequential as choosing a different dress. As if the demand to lose 40 pounds in 12 weeks wasn't asking me to potentially damage my health and relationship with food for their aesthetic preferences, because it's not just about weight, Em. It's about you thinking I'm so embarrassing that I need to be hidden or changed. It's about conditional love. It's about respect. We're not asking you to be hidden, you'd still be at the wedding. In the back row, out of the important photos, demoted from my role as your maid of honor because my body doesn't meet your standards. Yes, Emma, that's being hidden. She was crying now, but I felt no urge to comfort her. For the first time in our relationship, I wasn't rushing to make her feel better about hurting me. So what are you going to do? She asked through her tears. I'd been asking myself the same question for 3 days. The old Sarah would have probably agreed to the diet program, desperate to maintain peace and her place in the family. She would have starved herself and exercised obsessively and made herself miserable trying to shrink into their vision of acceptable. But something fundamental had shifted. Maybe it was finally being confronted with the stark reality of how my family saw me. Maybe it was the accumulation of 28 years of being the accommodating one. Maybe it was simply reaching the limit of how much of myself I was willing to sacrifice for other people's comfort. I'm going to show you exactly how I feel about your suggestion, I said, heading toward the door. What does that mean? I turned back to look at my sister, this person I'd loved and protected and prioritized my entire life, who was asking me to change my body or accept being pushed aside on one of her most important days. It means you're about to learn that actions have consequences, I said. And sometimes, when you treat people like they're disposable, they take you at your word. I left her apartment with a plan forming in my mind. If my family wanted to make my attendance at this wedding conditional on meeting their standards, then they were about to discover what unconditional absence looked like. By Friday afternoon, I'd made my decision, but I wasn't ready to reveal my hand just yet. Instead, I called Mom and delivered the response they were expecting to hear. I've thought about everything you said, I told her, keeping my voice carefully neutral, and I want to do what's best for Emma's wedding. Oh, wonderful, sweetie. Mom's relief was palpable through the phone. So, you'll try the program. I can call them today and get you enrolled. They have a spot opening up Monday morning. Actually, I've decided to step down as maid of honor. The silence stretched so long I wondered if the call had dropped. Step down, Mom's voice had shifted from relieved to confused. But honey, we found a solution. The diet program comes with personal training and meal plans. You could really do this. I know I could, I said. But I've realized that you're right about one thing. This should be Emma's day focused entirely on her happiness. I don't want any distractions. Mom didn't know how to respond to my agreement. She'd been prepared for arguments, tears, or pleas for reconsideration. My calm acceptance seemed to unsettle her more than resistance would have. Well, if that's what you think is best, she said slowly. Madison will be so excited. And you'll still be there, of course. We'll make sure you have a lovely time as a guest. Of course, I agreed. I wouldn't miss it for the world. After I hung up, I sat in my car in the work parking lot and laughed until tears streamed down my face. They had no idea what was coming. That weekend I began executing the most satisfying plan I'd ever conceived. First, I called my best friend Jessica, who lived in Portland and had been begging me to visit for months. Pack your bags, I told her. I'm coming to stay for a week in June and we're going to have the adventure of a lifetime. What's the occasion? My sister's wedding is June 15th. I'll be arriving June 14th. Jessica knew enough about my family dynamics to immediately understand the significance. Oh my God, you're actually doing it. You're not going. I'm not just not going. I'm going to be living my best life 3,000 miles away while they realize exactly what they've lost. Next, I researched the most amazing experiences Portland had to offer. Helicopter tours over the Columbia River Gorge, wine tasting in the Willamette Valley, a weekend spa retreat in the mountains, a private cooking class with a James Beard Award winner, stand-up paddleboard lessons, art galleries, hiking trails, and the best restaurants the Pacific Northwest had to offer. I booked everything for the week of Emma's wedding, spending exactly $3,900, $100 more than the diet program my parents had offered to buy me. Every confirmation email felt like a small act of rebellion. But the most crucial part of my plan was the documentation. I set up a private Instagram account and invited my extended family, college, friends, and work colleagues, basically everyone who would be expecting to see me at the wedding. The bio read, "Living my best life exactly as I am." Monday morning, I called Emma to inform her of my decision. "You're stepping down," she sounded genuinely surprised. But after we talked, I hoped you might reconsider. I did reconsider. I reconsidered what it means to be part of a family that makes love conditional on meeting their aesthetic standards. Sarah, that's not fair. We love you no matter what. Do you? Because love doesn't usually come with demands to change your body or be removed from important moments. It's not about love. It's about photos and how everything looks together. Emma, do you hear yourself right now? You're saying it's not about love, it's about how I look. Do you understand how that sounds? There was a long pause. I just want my wedding day to be perfect. And apparently I'm incompatible with your definition of perfect. You're twisting everything around. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just finally seeing it clearly. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years when it came to my family peace. For the first time, I wasn't scrambling to fix their feelings or make them comfortable with my existence. I wasn't apologizing for taking up space or trying to minimize myself to fit their vision. The next few weeks passed in a blur of excitement and anticipation. I threw myself into planning the Portland trip with the same enthusiasm I'd once put into wedding planning. Jessica and I texted constantly, building an itinerary that would make anyone jealous. Meanwhile, the family group chat buzzed with wedding updates that no longer included me. Photos of Madison in the maid of honor dress I'd originally chosen. Pictures of the rehearsal dinner menu. Updates about flower arrangements and final head counts. I watched it all with the detached interest of someone observing a movie about strangers. These people who I'd spent 28 years trying to please and accommodate had made it clear that my value to them was conditional. So I was withdrawing my unconditional investment in their happiness. 2 weeks before the wedding, Dad called. Your mother told me about your decision, he said without preamble. I think you're making a mistake. Which decision are you referring to, Dad? My decision not to undergo a crash diet program or my decision to step down rather than be demoted? You know what I mean? You're being stubborn about this whole thing. Stubborn. I was being stubborn by refusing to change my body to meet their standards or accept a humiliating demotion. I'm being consistent, I corrected. You made it clear that my role in Emma's wedding was conditional on changing my appearance. I'm simply acknowledging that condition and responding accordingly. We never said you couldn't come to the wedding. No, you just said I couldn't have the role I was originally given, unless I lost 40 pounds in 12 weeks. You made my participation conditional on meeting your aesthetic requirements. That's not how we meant it. Dad, impact matters more than intent. However you meant it, the impact was making me feel unwelcome and unacceptable as I am. So you're just going to punish Emma by not showing up? The audacity was stunning. I was punishing Emma by not subjecting myself to their conditions. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm making a choice about how I want to spend my time and energy. And I've decided I want to spend it with people who value me as I am. Your family values you. My family gave me an ultimatum: change your body or accept being pushed aside. That's not how you treat someone you value. You're being dramatic, and you're being cruel. The difference is, I'm not asking you to change who you are to accommodate my feelings. After Dad hung up on me, I booked one final addition to my Portland itinerary, a professional photo shoot. If my family was so concerned about photos and how everything looked, I was going to give them something to really think about. The photographer I hired specialized in body-positive portraits. Her portfolio was full of people of all sizes looking confident, beautiful, and radiant. I scheduled the session for the exact time Emma's wedding ceremony would be taking place. As June 14th approached, I felt something I'd never experienced before: a family event, genuine excitement instead of anxiety about meeting expectations or managing family dynamics. I was about to show them the cost of making someone feel disposable, and honestly, I couldn't wait. June 14th arrived with perfect Pacific Northwest sunshine. I woke up in Jessica's guest bedroom feeling more rested than I had in months. No anxiety about family dynamics, no stress about looking perfect, no walking on eggshells around people who supposedly loved me unconditionally, but had made that love very conditional indeed. My phone had been buzzing since 6 a.m. with messages from various family members. Aunt Carol asking if I was excited for today, Cousin Mike wondering what time I'd arrive at the venue, my grandmother texting to remind me to bring a sweater because the church always ran cold. I screenshot every single message for posterity. The wedding ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m. Pacific time, which meant 7 p.m. Eastern. Jessica and I had planned the day perfectly. We started with a leisurely brunch at a farm-to-table restaurant in the Pearl District where I posted a photo of the most beautiful avocado toast I'd ever seen. The caption read, "Starting this gorgeous Saturday with amazing food and even better company." At 11 a.m., exactly when Emma would be getting her hair done, I posted a photo from Powell's Books with a stack of body-positive memoirs I'd purchased. Investing in stories about women who refuse to shrink themselves for others. Highly recommend. By noon, my family back home was starting to get concerned. Mom called 3 times, but I let it go to voicemail. The messages started anxious and grew increasingly frantic. "Honey, just calling to make sure you're on your way. The ceremony starts at 4, and we want to get some family photos beforehand." "Sarah, it's Mom again. Your phone must be dead. Dad's going to drive by your apartment to make sure you're okay." "Sarah, Elizabeth, this isn't funny anymore. Emma is asking for you and we have no idea where you are." At 2 p.m. Portland time, exactly when the family photos were scheduled to begin, I posted the most beautiful picture of myself that had ever existed. The photographer had captured me mid-laugh during our morning session at the Japanese garden, surrounded by blooming roses, looking absolutely radiant in a flowing dress that hugged every curve of my body. The caption was simple: "Feeling grateful for this beautiful day and this beautiful life exactly as it is." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments poured in from friends, colleagues, and extended family members who weren't at the wedding. Stunning. You look amazing. Where is this gorgeous place, girl? You are glowing. But the real bomb dropped 30 minutes later when Jessica posted a boomerang video of us clinking champagne glasses on the rooftop of our hotel with the Portland skyline stretched out behind us. She tagged me and captioned it, "Weekend getaway with my amazing friend who knows her worth." That's when my phone exploded. Emma called 6 times in a row. When I finally answered on the 7th call, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Where are you?" she sobbed. "The photographer is here and Mom keeps asking where you are and I don't know what to tell people." "I'm in Portland," I said calmly, taking another sip of champagne while watching a street musician perform 3 stories below. Portland, Oregon. "Sarah, what the hell? I'm spending the week here. It's absolutely beautiful. You should visit sometime. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be at my wedding." "Actually, I'm not. Remember, you and Mom and Dad made it very clear that my presence was conditional on changing my body. Since I decided not to do that, I made other plans." "But you said you'd be here as a guest." I said I wouldn't miss it for the world. "And I'm not missing anything. I'm exactly where I want to be with people who love and appreciate me as I am." The silence on the other end was deafening. In the background, I could hear wedding chaos, Mom's voice getting shrill, Dad asking someone to call the police to do a wellness check, Madison asking if she should postpone getting dressed. "You're ruining my wedding," Emma whispered. "No, sweetheart. I'm not ruining anything. I'm simply not participating in an event where my value was determined by my dress size. There's a difference. Everyone is asking where you are, then tell them the truth. Tell them you asked me to lose 40 pounds or step aside and I chose option 3, stepping away entirely." "I can't tell people that." "Why not? Are you ashamed of what you asked me to do?" Another long silence broken only by muffled conversations in the background. "Sarah, please. Just come home. We can figure this out." "There's nothing to figure out. You made a choice about what kind of sister you wanted to be. I made a choice about what kind of treatment I'm willing to accept. We're both living with our decisions. Mom wants to talk to you." "I'm sure she does. Tell her I'm unavailable. I'm about to go wine tasting in the Willamette Valley." I hung up and immediately posted another photo, this one of Jessica and me getting into our Uber, holding a wine tour brochure and grinning like teenagers playing hooky. The rest of the afternoon unfolded exactly as I'd planned. While Emma walked down the aisle to marry Marcus, I was learning about terroir and soil composition from a passionate vintner. While they exchanged vows about loving each other unconditionally, I was discovering a Pinot Noir that would become my new favorite. While they posed for the family photos that had been so carefully curated to exclude me, I was taking selfies with Jessica against a backdrop of rolling hills and perfect blue sky. I posted every single moment, not out of spite but out of pure joy. For the first time in my adult life, I was spending a major family event doing exactly what I wanted to do, surrounded by people who celebrated rather than criticized me. The wine tour ended at sunset with a cheese and charcuterie spread overlooking the valley. As I posted a photo of the spread with the caption, "Perfect ending to a perfect day," my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Madison. I just want you to know that what your family did to you was wrong and I'm sorry I agreed to replace you. You deserve so much better." I screenshot that message too. Sometimes validation comes from the most unexpected places. By 8 p.m., the wedding reception would be in full swing back home. The family dinner, the speeches, the first dance, all the moments I'd been excluded from because my body didn't fit their vision of perfection. Instead, I was getting ready for dinner at one of Portland's most celebrated restaurants, wearing a dress that made me feel like a goddess, preparing to eat food, prepared by chefs who created beauty, without asking anyone to shrink themselves to deserve it. The evening was just beginning, and it was going to be spectacular. Sunday morning brought a reckoning that surpassed even my wildest expectations. I woke up to 43 missed calls, 87 text messages, and a social media explosion that had taken on a life of its own. The wedding had been a disaster. According to the messages flooding my phone, the carefully orchestrated event had unraveled in real time as guests realized I wasn't just running late, I wasn't coming at all. And thanks to my strategic social media posts, everyone could see exactly where I was and how happy I looked. Aunt Carol had apparently shown my Portland photos to other relatives during the cocktail hour, sparking whispered conversations about why I wasn't at my sister's wedding. Cousin Mike's wife had commented on Jessica's video asking if I was okay, drawing more attention to my absence. By the time dinner was served, the guests were more focused on the missing maid of honor than the bride and groom. But the real chaos had started when Great Aunt Helen, who had never mastered the art of social media discretion, commented directly on my Japanese garden photo during the reception. "You look absolutely radiant, dear. But shouldn't you be at Emma's wedding right now?" That comment, visible to everyone, had apparently prompted Uncle Bob to loudly ask Mom what was going on, which led to a hushed but heated conversation between my parents during the salad course, which led to Emma leaving her own reception dinner in tears. The messages told the story in fragments. From cousin Lisa: "What happened?" Mom said. "You were sick, but you're clearly in Oregon." From my college roommate girl: "Your Portland pics are making everyone at this wedding very confused." From Emma's college friend: "Your sister is losing it." "What's going on?" From Madison: "Your mom just cornered me asking if I knew where you were. This is so awkward." But the message that made me laugh out loud came from my 78-year-old grandmother: "Sweetie, your trip looks wonderful. These people need to mind their own business and let you live your life." Apparently, Grandma Rose had been following my posts all evening and had loudly announced during the bouquet toss that I was having much more fun than anyone at this stuffy party. According to Aunt Carol, Grandma had then launched into a speech about how weddings used to be about love instead of photo opportunities, effectively bringing the festivities to a grinding halt. The crown jewel of the evening's chaos came from my father's business partner, who had apparently asked Dad point-blank during the father-daughter dance why his older daughter wasn't at the wedding. Dad's response that I had decided not to participate had prompted follow-up questions that led to the whole ugly truth coming out. By Sunday morning, everyone knew that I'd been asked to lose weight or step down as maid of honor. Everyone knew I'd chosen a third option. And everyone had seen how genuinely happy I looked 3,000 miles away from their perfect celebration. My phone rang at 10 a.m. It was Mom, and she was furious. "How could you do this to your sister?" she demanded before I could even say hello. "How could you humiliate our family like this?" I was sitting on Jessica's balcony drinking coffee and watching the Willamette River sparkle in the morning sun. I felt so calm I almost surprised myself. "I didn't do anything to Emma," I said evenly. "I made plans for the weekend that didn't include attending an event where I wasn't welcome as myself." "You were welcome, you just had to. I had to change my body to be acceptable to you." "That's not being welcome, Mom. That's being conditionally tolerated." "Everyone is talking about it, people are asking questions." "Good. Maybe they should ask questions. Maybe other people should know what you asked your daughter to do." "You've ruined Emma's wedding." She cried herself to sleep last night. The audacity was breathtaking. I had ruined the wedding by not attending after being told I was too fat to be in the wedding party. "Mom, let me be very clear about something. Emma's wedding was ruined the moment you decided my body was more important than my role as her sister. I didn't cause that problem, I just refused to fix it by harming myself. It wasn't about your body, it was about the photos, which required my body to be different." Do you hear how that sounds? For the first time in the conversation, Mom fell silent. "Emma wants to talk to you," she finally said. "Emma knows how to use a phone. She's devastated. She should be. She chose her wedding photos over her sister. That's devastating behavior. You're being cruel." "I'm being honest. There's a difference." An hour later, Emma called. Her voice was hoarse from crying, and I could hear Marcus in the background trying to comfort her. I can't believe you actually did it, she said. I can't believe you missed my wedding. I can't believe you asked me to lose 40 pounds or be removed from your wedding party, I replied. But here we are. Everyone knows now. Everyone knows what we asked you to do. Good, Sarah, people are judging us. They should judge you. What you did was terrible. I just wanted everything to be perfect, and you decided I was incompatible with perfection, so I removed myself from the equation entirely. That's not what I meant, Emma. It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what you did. You and Mom and Dad made it clear that my value to this family is conditional on my appearance. So I've decided to invest my energy with people who don't feel that way. What does that mean? I looked out at the beautiful city spread below me, thought about the amazing people I'd met in just 2 days, the incredible experiences I'd had, the way it felt to wake up without anxiety about disappointing someone. It means I'm done shrinking myself to make you comfortable. It means I'm done accepting crumbs of affection from people who should love me unconditionally. It means I'm choosing myself for the first time in 28 years. So, you're never coming home. Portland isn't permanent. But the lesson is. I hung up and immediately posted one more photo, me, on the balcony, with my coffee looking peaceful and genuinely happy. The caption read, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is remove yourself from situations where you're not valued. The view is so much clearer from here." The comments that poured in were overwhelmingly supportive. Friends, acquaintances, and even strangers were sharing their own stories of family members who had made them feel inadequate. I realized I'd accidentally started a much bigger conversation about self-worth and family dynamics. My rebellion had become a movement, and I was ready to see where it led. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new apartment in Seattle, a compromise between Portland's magic and staying within driving distance of the family members who mattered, when Emma called for the first time since the wedding. "I've been in therapy," she said without preamble. "And I owe you the biggest apology of my life." The immediate aftermath had been brutal: Dad refusing to speak to me, Mom oscillating between fury and attempts at emotional manipulation, Emma sending passive-aggressive texts about family loyalty. But slowly, cracks had begun to show in their united front. It started with Grandma Rose, who had apparently spent the weeks after the wedding telling anyone who would listen that her granddaughters had been raised better than to treat each other so poorly. She'd cornered Mom at the grocery store and delivered what Aunt Carol described as a lecture that would make a drill sergeant proud about unconditional love and family values. Then Uncle Bob, Dad's brother, had called to tell me he was proud of me for standing up for myself. "Your dad's always been too worried about what other people think," he'd said. "Sometimes you have to shock people into seeing sense." The real turning point came when Madison, who had replaced me as maid of honor, posted her own social media story 3 weeks after the wedding. She'd shared a photo of herself at a body-positive yoga class with a long caption about learning to love herself, as she was tagged me and thanked me for showing her what real self-respect looks like. That post had gone viral in our extended social circle, sparking conversations about beauty standards, family pressure, and the courage it takes to walk away from toxic situations. Several of Emma's friends had reached out to me privately, sharing their own stories of being asked to change their appearance for weddings, family photos, or social events. But the most surprising response had come from Marcus, Emma's new husband. 2 months after the wedding, he'd sent me a long email apologizing for supporting my parents' demands and admitting that watching Emma's guilt and regret had made him realize how wrong they'd all been. I convinced myself it was about aesthetics, he'd written. But seeing how much pain this caused everyone, I understand now that it was about respect and love. Emma has been struggling with what happened, and I think she's finally ready to admit that we all failed you. Now, hearing Emma's voice crack with genuine remorse, I felt a mixture of vindication and sadness for the time we'd lost. "The therapist helped me understand that what we did was a form of emotional abuse," Emma continued. "We made your love and acceptance conditional on changing your body, and that's not how family is supposed to work." I was quiet for a long moment, processing the apology I'd never expected to receive. "I'm glad you're getting help," I said finally. "And I appreciate the apology. But this isn't just about saying sorry. This is about understanding that your actions had real consequences. I know. I've lost my sister for 6 months because I was more concerned about photos than your feelings. And Mom and Dad, they're still not speaking to you, are they? They weren't. My parents had doubled down on their position, insisting that I'd overreacted and embarrassed the family. Dad had told relatives I was going through a phase while Mom continued to insist they'd only been trying to help me look my best. Their loss, I said, and I meant it. The months of no contact had been peaceful in a way I'd never experienced. No criticism disguised as concern, no subtle comments about my appearance, no walking on eggshells around people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I want to try to rebuild our relationship, Emma said. If you're willing, but I understand if you're not ready or if you don't want to. I'm willing to try, I said. But things have to be different. I'm not going back to being the person who shrinks herself to make everyone else comfortable. I wouldn't want you to. I've seen your posts from Seattle and you look happier than I've ever seen you. She was right. My social media had documented a journey of self-discovery that had surprised even me. Rock climbing lessons, dance classes, a pottery workshop where I'd made the most lopsided vase in history and loved every minute of it. Dinner parties with new friends who celebrated each other's differences instead of trying to minimize them. I'd also started writing about my experience turning the wedding story into a blog post that had been shared thousands of times. The response had been overwhelming messages from people who'd experienced similar family pressure, stories of others who'd chosen themselves over toxic dynamics, gratitude for putting words to experiences many had never been able to articulate. Emma, I said, I need you to understand something. I didn't leave to punish you or to make a point. I left because I finally realized that I deserved better than conditional love. And I'm not coming back to a family dynamic that requires me to earn acceptance. I get that now. And I want you to know that I told Mom and Dad I won't have anything to do with them until they apologize to you properly. That surprised me. Emma had never stood up to our parents before. How did that go over? Not well. But Marcus and I are hosting Christmas this year, and I told them they're not invited unless they can treat you with respect. We talked for another hour carefully, beginning the process of rebuilding a relationship that had been damaged by months of hurt and silence. It wasn't going to be easy or quick, but for the first time I felt like I was talking to a sister who saw me as an equal rather than someone who needed to be managed or fixed. After we hung up, I looked around my apartment, filled with art. I loved books that inspired me and photos from adventures I'd taken solo or with friends who valued authenticity over appearances. My life had become so much richer once I'd stopped trying to fit into spaces that required me to be smaller. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Dinner tonight. Found a new place that serves the most amazing Ethiopian food. I smiled and typed back, absolutely. My treat, celebrating 6 months of choosing myself. As I got ready to meet my friend, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, anxious, accommodating, willing to consider crash dieting to earn her place at her sister's wedding. That version of Sarah felt like a stranger now. The best part, I knew this was just the beginning. I'd learned the most important lesson of my life: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when they try to make your worth conditional, show them what unconditional self-respect looks like. If you've ever been asked to shrink yourself literally or figuratively to make others comfortable, I want to know, what was your breaking point? Share your story in the comments below. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. And subscribe for more real stories about choosing yourself over toxic dynamics. And please share this with anyone who needs to hear that they're worthy of unconditional love exactly as they are. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to make yourself smaller for other people's comfort. Here's to all of us choosing to take up the space we deserve.